Hi, I'm Matt Brooks, and I'm an architect with Citrix Technical Marketing. Welcome to Geek's Guide to Microsoft Teams Optimization with Windows Virtual Desktop. Microsoft recently reported that Teams is their fastest growing business app in their history, with 13 million daily active users across 500,000 companies. Through the Microsoft and Citrix partnership, the Teams app is built to run on Citrix virtualization technology. Here you see a Microsoft site that provides an overview. Windows Virtual Desktop is Microsoft's latest technology to virtualize Windows desktops hosted on Azure. Here you see another Microsoft site with more information. Microsoft has partnered with Citrix on Windows Virtual Desktop. The Citrix Managed Desktop offering provides users with the benefits of Windows Virtual Desktop. Citrix SD-WAN provides optimized connectivity to Citrix Managed Desktops, including deep HTX visibility to prioritize delivery based on class of service. It also works together with HTX and the Citrix Workspace app to optimize the delivery of Teams media flows. Today we'll focus on optimizing Teams hosted on Citrix Managed Desktops and delivered using Citrix SD-WAN. First we'll talk about Teams. We'll explore more of its features, discover how it's launched through Citrix Workspace, and demo its user experience. Next we'll talk more about Citrix Managed Desktops. We'll explore key values Citrix Managed Desktops bring to Windows Virtual Desktops. We'll do a deep dive on the architecture of the Virtual Teams app, and we'll demo building a desktop. Last, we'll talk about Citrix SD-WAN. We'll discuss the network location service and how it works with SD-WAN to route internal branch users to Citrix Managed Desktop VDAs over the intranet, while remote users are routed over the internet via Citrix Gateway POPs. We'll also talk about the Office connectivity principles and how Citrix SD-WAN uses them to direct Teams media flows to the optimal access POP, and we'll demo SD-WAN provisioning using the Orchestrator service. Let's get started discussing Teams. Teams is the Microsoft app for communication and collaboration. With it, you get the ability to chat, meet, run apps, share desktops, and share files. You can establish project teams with people in your company and channels to organize your work. It supports third-party apps and the ability to make voice and video calls. Today we'll put a lot of focus on how Citrix optimizes them. So why optimize Teams with Citrix? Well, Citrix is the only vendor today that optimizes Teams for virtual instances, which provides organizational benefits, including centralized control, so you can manage and deliver Teams alongside your existing virtualized apps or desktops. It provides security, so you can store chat logs, file exchanges, and other data in the cloud and not on the endpoint hosting Teams. And existing Microsoft and Citrix customers can maximize the current investment. Teams is part of Microsoft 365, so you can utilize what you already have and deploy it through Citrix. There are also admin and user experience benefits. In some instances, we may improve the experience over the Teams native app. And users still get the native app functionality while enjoying the security and management benefits of centralized delivery. And also, there's enhanced server scalability. Since the resources of a Teams virtual instance is offloading CPU resources on the user's device rather than the VDA, you may achieve more users per server and reduce overall operating expense. Virtualized Teams can be launched as a virtual app or within a virtual desktop from the Citrix Workspace app or via a browser to the Workspace service, which aggregates all intelligent feeds, apps, desktops, and content into a unified experience. Now let's take a look at the Teams user experience. We'll get started on a client that has Teams installed natively and that's unoptimized. You can see our friend Abe is calling here. And it looks like Abe is doing a voice call and he's going to share something with us. Here he's got the Citrix Workspace with Intelligence video running on the Citrix YouTube site. You can see that the graphics quality isn't that crisp and that tornado isn't really spinning the way it should be. So let's go ahead and we'll end that call and take a look at why that is. And if I was going to rate that call, I might give it a couple stars. We can launch the Network Testing Companion tool provided by Microsoft to investigate the Teams networking quality. Once the tool launches, we'll go ahead and start that connectivity test. Then we'll go ahead and open a Microsoft Docs page. Here you can find more information about that testing companion. And then you can see that it's just a PowerShell module you need to install to get it working. Back we can see that the connectivity test is running. And after the initial completion, identified that the connectivity parameters aren't good as it would hope, and likewise with the quality. If we look at the results, we can see that there's some packet loss, and the round trip time is 88 milliseconds, which is fairly high. Now on our optimized Teams client on our Citrix Managed Desktop, we'll go ahead and do a similar test. We see that Abe is giving us a call here. And again, Abe's doing a voice call. He's going to go ahead and share a screen. Now we'll see he's starting that Citrix Workspace with Intelligence video again. We'll see that this time the graphics are much more crisp. That tornado is spinning fast the way it should be, as you'd expect. So let's go ahead and end that call as well and take a look at the Teams networking. And I'd probably give that a 4 in terms if I was going to grade the quality. So we'll open that Network Testing Companion again. And then once that's open, we're going to go ahead and start that test again to do an analysis of the quality of the network connection from this virtual client running on our endpoint in our branch to the Teams relay services. We look at the results, we see negligible packet loss and low round trip at around 30 milliseconds. Now let's dig into the Citrix Managed Desktops. Citrix Managed Desktops are a new Citrix offering that utilize the same virtual apps and desktop technology that's been hosted by our customers successfully for decades on premises or in the cloud as a service for over half a decade. With the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop service, all the core management services are hosted in Citrix Cloud, and cloud connectors are used to access VDA workloads on customer premise locations. And now with Citrix Managed Desktops, Citrix will continue to host the management services as well as take over managing a private Azure tenant to host the Windows VDA workloads. And for internal users on the corporate intranet, Citrix SD-WAN is the recommended access technology for Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop offerings, and it's in tech preview for Citrix Managed Desktops, while Citrix Gateway and Citrix Gateway Service continue to be available for external remote users. Here you see a Citrix Docs page that provides more detail on Citrix Managed Desktops. So what makes Citrix Managed Desktops different? Well, first, this is the first time where Windows Virtual Desktop, specifically Windows 10 Multi-Session, is going to be baked into the services. So now you're going to be able to deploy Windows Virtual Desktop side by side with other desktop options. This is also the first time desktops may be provisioned as domain joined and non-domain joined as part of our services. This is the first time you can buy everything from Citrix. And we simplify network connectivity to your on-premises resources by providing an easy-to-use workflow to provision Citrix SD-WAN to securely and optimally connect the Azure-hosted VDAs to your environment. Here you see a Citrix Docs page that provides more detail on how Teams is optimized on Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops, including Citrix Managed Desktops. And now let's dive into the architecture of Teams optimized for Citrix. On the top of our diagram, we see the private Azure tenant where our VDA is hosted. On the bottom, we see our user device running Workspace app. After the user launches Teams, the Teams.exe app authenticates to Office 365. Policies and signaling info are sent to the Teams client. Then it detects it's running in a VDA and makes API calls to Citrix code embedded in Teams. It then opens a secure connection to the WebSocket service running on the VDA loopback, which sets up TLS termination and user session mapping. It now instantiates a virtual channel by calling the Citrix HDX browser redirection service. The HDX engine then spawns HDX Teams.exe on the user device, which is the new WebRTC engine used for Teams. HDX Teams.exe and Teams.exe now have a two-way virtual channel path and can start processing multimedia requests. Now let's look at the call flow. When a user initiates a call, Teams.exe on the VDA communicates with the Teams services, and an end-to-end signaling path is established with the target peer. Teams will ask HCX teams on the user device for a series of supported call parameters, such as codexes, which are then relayed via the signaling path to Teams services and from there to other peers. Now from the endpoint, media flows may be established from the user. The HCX media engine supports Internet Connectivity Establishment, or ICE, which is part of the Session Description Protocol, or SDP. It also supports session traversal utilities for NAT or STUN, and traversal using relays around NAT or TURN for candidate discovery and connection establishment. Thereafter, Secure Real-Time Transport Protocol, or RTP media flows directly between peers and the relay service. A bit later, we'll talk more about how Citrix SD-WAN facilitates these communication flows optimally. Now let's take a look at setting up and launching Citrix Managed Desktops with Teams. We'll get started in our Citrix Cloud Console. First, we'll select the Managed Desktops blade. Here we'll see a menu pop up, and in the top right, we'll find a list of master images that are ready-made to use. We'll also see we have the ability to build a new image, or we have the ability to import one. Here we'll find a link to a Microsoft documentation site where we find more details about how to do that. To do that, the first step is we need to build a virtual machine, and we need to do that using the correct image. If we go ahead and search for the available Windows 10 images and scroll down the list, we'll find that there's a few that are ready-made to use with virtual desktops. Once we select our image and built our virtual machine, we'll navigate to a tab where we've already had the machine running. Here in the Citrix documentation, we'll see details about installing the Teams client as an MSI or an EXE, and we'll see that Microsoft also has more detailed documentation about the Teams install for VDI as well. Back in our admin tab, the last step we'll need to do is when we've shut down that virtual machine, we'll increase the URL timer and then generate the URL. We'll go ahead and copy that, and back in our Managed Desktops tab, we'll be able to paste that in the form. And then last, we'll go ahead and give it a name. And then once we've named it, we can start the image import. Now that'll take a while, and what we'll notice is we've already created one towards the bottom of our list there. And we've used that to build a catalog. First, we want to go back to our workspace configuration. We'll see that that's the URL we're going to use to access it. We'll see that we're using Active Directory for authentication among the other many choices available. Back in our Managed Desktop configuration screen, we'll open our catalog. We'll see that we've created using that image. And then we'll do Manage Subscribers. We'll go ahead and add a user named Bob, and we'll see that he's subscribed successfully. Last, let's talk about Citrix SD-WAN and how it optimizes delivery of Citrix Managed Desktops and Teams media flows. First, we'll focus on Citrix Managed Desktop delivery optimization with Citrix SD-WAN. Here you see a Citrix Docs page that provides more detail on Citrix Managed Desktops using Citrix SD-WAN for network connectivity. And remember, while we're focusing on Citrix Managed Desktops, SD-WAN is also recommended for network optimization of any implementation of Citrix virtual apps and desktops. Here you see a Citrix Docs page that provides more detail on the network location service, which directs internet branch traffic over SD-WAN paths. Now let's see how Citrix Managed Desktops using a Citrix Managed Azure tenant with Citrix SD-WAN and the network location service work together. First, from an admin perspective, the admin connects to the Citrix Managed Desktop service. Then they enter environment details for SD-WAN, and CMD relays them to the Orchestrator service. The admin submits the configured details, and the Orchestrator provisions an SD-WAN instance in the Azure tenant where the Citrix Managed Desktop VDAs will be hosted. SD-WAN contacts other SD-WAN instances and branch offices and automatically builds an overlay network of virtual paths and announces the route to reach the Azure tenant where the CMD VDAs will be hosted. The admin enters and submits CMD details, The CMD service provisions an HA pair of cloud connectors for management communication and then provisions the Windows desktop VDAs in the Azure tenant. Then the admin enters and submits a PowerShell script to configure the network location service, which identifies whether a workspace user's device is located in a branch on the internet based on the source IP address. Now let's see how Citrix managed desktops with Citrix SD-WAN and the network location service work together from the user perspective. The user launches Workspace app and it connects to Workspace service, which contacts the identity microservice to authenticate using available identity services. And if Active Directory is being used, it would contact the domain controller via Cloud Connector across the SD-WAN network. After authentication is complete, the Workspace app populates with approved resources. Then the user selects a CMD desktop within the Workspace app and contacts Workspace service. The Workspace service contacts the Managed Desktop service to obtain connection details. The Managed Desktop service contacts the Network Location service to verify whether the endpoint is on the customer intranet or whether it's remote. It then sends a message to the VDA via the Cloud Connector to prepare for an incoming session, and it returns the ICA file to the Workspace app, including information to contact the designated VDA. The Workspace app then sends a connection request to the CMD VDA private intranet IP address, which is routed via the SD-WAN network, and the HCX session to the Managed Desktop is established. And now the Managed Desktop can also communicate with other resources on the internet, like CIFS file shares, over that SD-WAN network. Let's see a demo of these flows in action. Back in our Managed Desktop menu, we'll see that for network connectivity, we have two options. We can create an Azure VNet peer or a Citrix SD-WAN instance. We'll see that we're using the SD-WAN instance. We'll take note of that 10.50 subnet we've applied for VDA creation. Now we'll navigate to our Orchestrator menu. First, we'll notice in the configuration details that we've created a DNS server that can access the domain. This is very important for the VDAs to join the domain. We'll also notice that the SD-WAN instance has all of its details created. These are provided by the workflow in the Managed Desktop menu. Nevertheless, once that information is uploaded, we still need to follow normal change control to push that to the instance. Now we'll navigate to our endpoint in our branch location. And first we'll see that we have ICA logging enabled. That's going to tell us details about the information used to access the desktop. Now we'll go ahead and launch our virtual Managed Desktop. We'll see that it's launched successfully. Now we'll go ahead and open the ICA logging file. And when we scroll down, we'll notice a SSL proxy host to a FQDN. This indicates that it's using Citrix Gateway Service to access the virtual desktop. Now we'll navigate back to our admin screen. We'll notice the Network Location Service Tech Preview documentation. Here we'll see that configure this. The first step is we need to download a PowerShell module. And once the module is downloaded, we'll also need to create a secure client. And it's going to provide us an ID and a secret that we'll need to copy. So we've already went ahead and done those steps in the PowerShell service that we have running here. So we can see that now we're connected to the network location service. Now back on our branch endpoint, we're going to go ahead and find its public IP address. Now we're doing this for demonstration. Normally your network administrator will have the ranges that are used to access the internet, the public IP addresses that are used as the source on egress. Here we'll paste in that IP address as a /32. We'll also update the time zone and we'll submit that. Now that's active, so when the branch client contacts the Workspace service, it's going to recognize that it's coming from a location that's on the intranet. So we'll go ahead and delete the ICA log file, we'll close that out, and we'll close our desktop. And now when we launch the desktop, we'll see that we're going to be accessing the VDA hosted in Azure directly over the SD-WAN network. So we'll see that our desktop is launching again, and it's launched successfully. So we'll go ahead and close that out. And then we'll access the ICA log file and scroll down, and we'll see at the very top there's an IP address assigned from that VDA subnet range that we provided earlier. Now back in our admin desktop, we'll return to the Orchestrator menu and we'll select the SD-WAN instance hosted in the Azure tenant, and we'll navigate to real-time firewall connections. We'll retrieve those connections and we'll search for ICA. And here we'll see we have all 4 ICA classes, which are automatically broken out, and they're sent over the virtual path, which we would hope for. Next, we'll focus on Teams delivery optimization with Citrix SD-WAN. Here we have a table of some of the Teams performance requirements, and we can see some fairly stringent latency and packet loss specifications, which we noted in the network testing companion results. To help ensure the best network conditions to access Office 365 services, Microsoft provides network connectivity principles with specific network details and groups them into 3 categories according to whether there are benefits to directly routing branch traffic to the internet. Teams is part of the optimized category. Citrix SD-WAN implements Office 365 network connectivity principles in the optimized category by default to direct Teams media signaling to the nearest Office 365 front door. Here we see a branch endpoint with the virtual Teams client that will establish a call with the remote endpoint via a native Teams client. The SD-WAN appliance will obtain the latest Office 365 and Teams IP addresses and domain names through a Microsoft API. Then once the HCX Teams is running on the branch endpoint, it identifies the Teams RTP traffic flow and directs it to the nearest media relay to establish the call. And when the Teams peers are both located on your internet, Teams will try to communicate directly during signaling, and the RTP flows will be routed via the SD-WAN overlay network. Let's look at those flows from an SD-WAN perspective. And now back in Orchestrator, let's look at the flows pertaining to our Teams calls. We'll navigate to our branch site and retrieve the latest data for our firewall flows. We'll sort by name. We'll see a list of Microsoft entries pertaining to Teams as well as other Office 365 flows. And we'll notice that these flows were directed straight to the internet using the Office 365 connectivity principles, giving us reduced latency and better call quality. Citrix SD-WAN with existing Citrix virtual apps and desktop workloads in Azure can further optimize Teams delivery by routing RTP flows via SD-WAN instances hosted in Azure, and enjoy full end-to-end benefits, including voice-over IP packet racing, which sends duplicate packets across different paths, and on the far end utilizes the one that arrives with the least latency and jitter. Another recommended option is to use the Citrix SD-WAN Cloud Direct service. Citrix SD-WAN Cloud Direct service is ideal for optimizing access to any cloud service, and especially for Teams real-time communication flows. The benefits start at the branch, where Cloud Direct service optimizes session flows on the branch-hosted SD-WAN appliance prior to transmission over an open VPN tunnel across the internet to Cloud Direct POPs by intelligently balancing flows across available links. And the benefits continue across the internet, where it monitors and redirects these flows based on quality conditions while in transit across ISP paths to Cloud Direct POPs. And it also provides benefits at the cloud core. After branch session traffic is transported across the internet, it's de-encapsulated at the Cloud Direct POP and directed to the target cloud service, which is usually a short number of hops away thanks to extensive peering agreements at top internet exchanges. And if it's routed between Cloud Direct POPs, it traverses a private high-speed backbone and honors quality of service tags that are automatically set at the branch appliance. The ability to configure Citrix Cloud Direct service in Orchestrator is targeted for the end of this quarter. Here you see a Teams firewall flows being routed to the Cloud Direct service on one of our staging sites. With Microsoft Teams and Citrix, you can empower users with better ways of working with modern collaboration and effective teamwork. Okay, so that wraps up our content. And I just wanted to leave you with some links here where you can get more information on Citrix TechZone. And if you're not familiar with TechZone, this is a site with content created by technical experts for technical experts. It includes reference architectures, tech papers, tools, and technical deep dives. And pertaining to today's session, you'll find more information on Microsoft Teams optimization, Citrix managed desktops, and Citrix SD-WAN. Okay, now we have some time for Q&A. Okay, first, how does Citrix join the managed desktops to my domain? Well, when you configure a catalog, you provide the admin service account to log in via API to create the computer account and then join the VDA to the domain. And you specify the SD-WAN instance to route there. And that DNS service must be configured so that it can resolve the domain. Okay, next is, do I need to open firewall ports for Teams to work? Well, there's a fair amount of ports and protocols used by Teams. Most are either they're set up outbound or they become bidirectional once they're established. And if they're sent on your internet for peer-to-peer calls, it really depends on the rules that you have in place. But either way, Teams Services has a really robust set of protocols to deal with network address translation and routing so that it can seamlessly adapt to a variety of topologies. Okay, next, which Office subscription do I need to get Teams? Well, I'll have to refer you to Microsoft for that, but I can tell you that you need a subscription version over the free version to use a lot of its enterprise features, like the ability to make PSTN phone calls, integrating with Outlook to schedule meetings from Teams, or integration with AD or AAD for authentication and directory lookups. And those can all be set up through the Teams admin blade in the Office portal. Okay, let's see next. Do I need to make routing changes in my network to optimize delivery of Citrix managed desktops and Teams? Well, actually, no and yes, because you do need to have a SD-WAN network in place. I mean, and it can be deployed in a variety of topologies depending on your environment as well. But once the appliances establish virtual paths between each other, they automatically relay routing information for local LAN subnets, which would include the tenant where the Citrix managed desktop VDAs are deployed. Okay, next is Citrix managed desktops available today? Yes, it was released in Q3 of last year in the August timeframe. And Teams Optimized for Citrix also came out last year, and it's supported by our Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops 1912 long-term service release, which also came out at the end of last year. While the Citrix managed desktops using Citrix SD-WAN for network connectivity and the network location service, those are both currently in tech preview. So be sure to check Citrix Docs and Citrix TechZone for more information on these products that we discussed today. Well, we're about out of time. I wanted to say thank you to everyone for joining. We appreciate you taking the time, and I hope you have a great day.